An Australian pharmaceutical company has released promising data showing a nasal spray could protect against COVID-19. Their experiments showed a 15-second exposure to Nasodine reduced infectivity of COVID by 99.97%, while a 60-second exposure completely eliminated viral infectivity. For more, joining us now live is Dr. Peter Molloy, the Firebrick Pharma founder and creator of the throat gargle Nasodine. Dr. Molloy, I appreciate your time. This sounds like a major breakthrough. I understand that you do still have a number of hurdles to jump through, but all going well. Explain for us the dream here. What are you hoping you could be able to achieve with this nasal spray?
Well, Ash, our focus has actually been on the common cold because the active ingredient, which is actually the same active ingredient as used in most products sold under the Betadine brand, is called povidone iodine. And it's a remarkable active ingredient because it kills all microbes, including viruses, but is generally safe to use in the throat and under certain circumstances in the nose. So that's a very helpful attribute when you're thinking about viral respiratory diseases like the common cold, which is a very superficial infection inside the nose, and by eliminating the virus, you can potentially have an impact on the common cold. And that's been the focus for our development over the last 10 years, and we've completed the full suite of human trials towards that to get approval as a treatment for the common cold. However, we've also explored other opportunities, and one of them is pandemic viral diseases. And even before COVID-19 came along, we filed a patent on the use of Nasodine for preventing a range of pandemic viral diseases, including SARS-related diseases like COVID-19, although we didn't know about that particular type of SARS disease at that time, but also Ebola and pandemic flu, because all of these diseases are ones where you can potentially intervene with a topical nasal spray that eliminates viruses. Now, the data that was published today is data that we have developed and disclosed over the last 2 years, which shows that in a laboratory setting, yes, the active ingredient, and in our formulation, it rapidly kills, that is, eliminates the infectivity of SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 virus. But we also showed that in a pilot human study, which we did in South Africa last year, that it translates from the laboratory setting, where you can actually kill the virus, to reducing shedding from people who have COVID-19. So it was kind of a proof of principle. Now we're looking at the next step, which is to do a phase 2 study, again in people who are positive for COVID-19 and actively shedding the virus. But I should say that our focus has been on the common cold, and it's a long way from killing a virus in a test tube to demonstrating that you can actually intervene in a complex clinical condition like COVID-19. So we're a long way from proving that yet, but certainly the results so far are encouraging.
And just talk us through that process. You mentioned more trials. I assume that you need to go through the approval process, and then if all the boxes are ticked, what's the plan in terms of how quickly that spray could be on pharmacy shelves?
Well, as I said, our focus has been on the common cold, and we've submitted a dossier for approval for that indication. And the way it works with medicines is that you get approval for a specific disease if it's a therapeutic drug, and ours is classified as a therapeutic. So our initial approval would be for the common cold. It's not yet approved, but I hope it will be in the not too distant future. Once that's approved, we can expand to other indications through clinical testing and subject to further approval. So before we could promote the product for any use such as COVID-19 or any other condition beyond the common cold, beyond treatment of common cold, we would need to get regulatory approval. In Australia, that would be TGA approval. And to get that approval, we'd have to do a full series of human trials, including probably a phase 3 trial.
And so targeting the common cold, just clarify for me, are you using it as a preventative or as treatment? And if it's treatment, how often and how early would you ideally need to use the spray after infection?
The focus is on treatment of the common cold. And we would recommend that it's used in the first 24 hours after symptom onset, because it seems from our phase 3 study that people who used it early had the best result in terms of reduction of overall cold severity. We're doing a second phase 3 trial this year to confirm that, but you would need to use it early to have the biggest impact, as you would expect. So that's what we propose. It's the proposed regimen is 3 sprays per nostril, which is less than a 1 ml dose, so a very small dose, 4 times a day for 5 days.
Your company, Firebrick, launched an IPO recently. There's obviously a lot more that you want to do in terms of raising that funding to keep this moving. What's the plan in terms of keeping it all here in Australia, heading overseas? Often we see amazing concepts developed here in Australia only to be nabbed by the big pharmaceutical giants overseas. What's the plan for this one? Indeed,
you're absolutely right. Many companies do disappear overseas once they've created enough value to produce a significant return for their investors. Our goal is to create a successful Australian pharmaceutical business that's globally facing. Our manufacturing is in Melbourne with a company called Probiotech, who are our exclusive manufacturing partner, and they will be manufacturing and exporting worldwide from Leverton in Victoria, where their facility is. So that's our goal. We want to be a very successful company that will make Australians proud, but one that's also globally facing and operating through partnerships internationally. And I hope that in the next 5 years, we will see Nasodine sold in most countries around the world. You have mentioned that your focus, of course, is on the common cold at the moment, but what's your gut feeling when it comes to using this against COVID? Are you confident that that's where this is going to end up? We have to be very careful because we pride ourselves on being an ethical company that is going to stick to the rules of the regulators, in the case of Australia, TGA. So we can make no claims about COVID-19 until we've completed all the clinical trials for that indication and that it's been approved by a regulator such as TGA. We're some distance from that, so I'm not prepared to speak about my gut feel, but appreciate the question. We'd all love to know, Dr. Peter Molloy, but we will be following this closely and wish you all the best as you continue on with these trials. Thank you very much.